This is Central Texas Living with Ann Harder.
Hello, I'm Ann Harder. Welcome to Central Texas Living, the podcast. Today, we're going to dive into the world of retirement living. Perhaps you or someone you love needs the added support and convenience of a retirement community. Joining me now, the Executive Director of Stilwell Retirement Residence on Laurel Lake in Waco, Dr. Joel Wright. And it's good to have you.
It's good to see you.
Now, you have been at Stillwell since 1981?
Yes, just celebrated my 40th anniversary.
That is just incredible. First of all, anymore, you just don't see longevity in jobs anyway. But what drew you to this kind of work? Did you always know you wanted to work with older adults?
I think, Ann, what started with it was growing up, both sets of my grandparents had died by the time I came along. And I always missed that contact with older people. So in high school, I got involved in some ministry through our church youth group, and just really enjoyed dealing with older folks.
Well, it's certainly a community that's got a wealth of knowledge and experience, and often they're just overlooked.
Very true.
Well, so tell me a little bit more about yourself. Are you from Central Texas? Where'd you go to school?
I went from 6th grade through high school here in Waco,
Mm-hmm.
and went on to, eventually I've got a master's in studies in aging from University of North Texas.
Very good. And your doctorate is?
No, it's I have a master's, not a doctorate.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I would receive that information. I'll still call you Dr. Wright. No, do you want to start this over? Let's start this over, could we? I'm sure I got that from
Liz.
Yeah, from Liz, and I thought, oh well, okay. Okay, starting the timer over. You good with that? Okay. As long as you know. Normally this doesn't happen, but sometimes if my mistake is so egregious, we'll start over. Hello, I'm Ann Harder. Welcome to Central Texas Living, the podcast. Today, we're going to dive into the world of retirement living. Perhaps you or someone you love needs the added support and convenience of a retirement community. Joining me now, the Executive Director of Stilwell Retirement Residence, located on Laurel Lake in Waco. It's good to have you here, Joel Wright, you've been there on staff in some capacity. Have you always been executive director?
I've been always executive director, just celebrated my 40th anniversary.
Incredible. And you're not the only one on staff that has served there for decades.
We have quite a few people there. Our longest tenured employees, our head cook's been with us for 46 years.
Oh, my goodness. And the facility is how old?
Actually, this month, we're celebrating our 57th anniversary. So we're the oldest retirement community in the area.
Well, and it's always been my understanding that Stillwell was kind of geared toward retired teachers.
That's correct.
So, but you don't have to be a retired teacher to live there?
That's correct. It was actually a group of retired and active educators who back in the 50s came up with the idea of having a retirement residence for people with a common background, common interest. So we serve primarily retired educators, but we are open to people from other backgrounds as well.
And how big is the community? How many people?
We normally have around 90 people, which it's kind of like living in a small town.
Yeah.
It's not at all uncommon that someone comes to Stillwell and they already know several people there.
Yeah, you have couples there, I guess?
We do.
So let's talk about the different kinds of support communities, which I guess we could call a retirement community. This, I guess, a retirement residence like Stillwell is for perhaps the most active and, mobile folks.
Yeah, Stillwell is basically designed for people who still function fairly well on their own, but who've simply reached a point in life where they're tired of living alone, or maybe it's not safe for them to live alone. So they come to our place, and they have all their meals provided, maintenance, housekeeping, all sorts of activities and programs. but they can continue doing whatever they were doing before they came to Stillwell. So a number of the residents still have their own cars
Right.
and still active in churches or whatever.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that when you can have that sort of community and fellowship with people that are in the same stage of life as you, that's got to be such a big support to them.
It really is. It's people who share a common background and who've gone through a lot of the same life experiences. So it is a very strong support group.
Well, I guess I'm a little surprised that it's as big as 90. I mean, that's pretty big. How many units do you have or residences? And I would assume you have a variety of sizes.
Well, we only actually have two sizes of units. And so we have several couples, but most of the units were designed for one person because, again, back in the planning in the late 50s, that was kind of what they were expecting. There'd be more interest in one person than a couple coming in. But we do have several couples that live there as well.
Well, of course, I've been aware of Stillwell for many, many years,
Right.
and sang with a group that would come in and we'd perform, randomly. We'd do a Christmas program there. We always loved doing the Christmas program there. And it was always such a vibrant group of folks and former teachers of mine, that I would
Right.
that I would see there. And they just seemed to be having a good time.
Well, that's the goal, is for people to keep active. We've always provided a wide variety of different type of experiences that encourage people to remain active, and that certainly adds to their remaining independent for quite some time.
Now, let's talk a little bit about yourself. When did you know you wanted to work with older people? I mean, you've been there a long time. Since 1981, you've been there at Stillwell, and so there's got to be something that's drawn you to that kind of work with the older adults.
Both sets of my grandparents had passed on by the time I came along, and growing up, I always missed that contact with older people. And then in high school, our church youth group got involved in doing some nursing home ministry, and I just really enjoyed that kind of experience. So I pursued that through my education and went on to get a master's in studies in aging from University of North Texas.
What do you think is the thing that people generally don't understand about older adults?
That's a very good question. I think that they're just overlooked for the amount of experience and the knowledge that they have obtained, and the fact that they still have a lot to offer.
Yeah, and they are. I mean, older. Now that I'm becoming an older person, I mean, you begin to notice that the hair turns gray, and suddenly you become invisible.
That is very true, unfortunately.
Yeah. So do you have any ideas of things that people can do to engage with older folks?
I think just visiting with older people,
Mm-hmm.
just getting to know older people in their neighborhood or church or whatever, because it's just a wealth of living history that is very much untapped.
Yes, I mean, I'm sure you've had a lot of veterans.
Yes.
Who you've known over the years, and of course we're quickly running out of World War II vets. I guess, are there any in that category there anymore?
No, we've had several who were in the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's my generation. Well, you're celebrating a really important milestone. So tell me about the plans that you have coming up in December.
Well, as you know, Ann, having participated before in our annual pancake breakfast, we haven't been able to have one because of the pandemic for the last 2 years. So we're planning to start that up again in June of next year.
It usually is in June,
it's
as I
usually
recall.
second Saturday.
Yeah.
So we decided we wanted to do something in between to let people know, we're open.
Yeah,
again.
we're here.
We're still here. So we decided on Saturday, December 4th, just to hold a big open house. So that's the event that's coming up for us.
Well, very good. And so everybody's invited to come, and it's not necessarily for people to think they might want to live there.
No, it's
Are
just
you full right now, as a matter of fact?
We're close to full occupancy. But it's a time just for people in the community to come in and see us. We'll have refreshments and live music. It will also be the day we have our annual book sale, which again we haven't had for 2 years. So,
okay, tell me about that.
well, it's we have a large print library, and then we've had a lot of books donated to us that were small print, which we can't use. So we, in turn, have a big book sale and open that to the public so people can come in and get some great deals on a lot of books. We also have a quilt that we're raffling off that was made by a resident and her 2 daughters. So that's something else will be going on December 4th.
Neat. Well, let's talk a little bit about, I mean, you're an expert in aging. You've, studied that in college. And I think that for some people, they might be a little confused as to what to expect in a retirement community as opposed to assisted living, as opposed to nursing care.
Yes.
Just kind of get into that.
Well, the 3 categories, Stillwell is independent living only, which was the model when Stillwell was built back in the early 60s. The main difference between independent retirement living and assisted living is it's similar in a lot of respects, but assisted living is a licensed facility that does also provide some extra help in terms of helping with medications and with some nursing services, whereas Stillwell goes up to but does not include any kind of help with medications or anything that would be considered a medical or nursing service. And then the next category would be the long-term care, people who are in need of 24-hour-a-day care.
Yeah, more intensive kind of nursing care. But are there any at Stillwell that may, need some assistance, like with eye drops or whatever, that kind of thing, and maybe have visiting angels or have, some of these other agencies involved?
As we're a private residence, a resident could have family to come in, provide assistance, hire someone, or have some type of home health service to come in.
Yeah, who's been there the longest? Do you know?
Oh, that's a very good question. Well, actually, it's the lady who made the quilt.
Really?
She's been there. Probably, I guess at least 20 years.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's home. I mean, looking at your website, you want it to be a home-like environment because it really is kind of a third act, for folks. They've had to downsize. They've had to get rid of a lot of their possessions in order to move in a much smaller space. How do you support folks in that kind of activity? Because, it's tough.
Sure.
My mother-in-law, went through that.
Well, one thing that we always encourage people to do is to come and take a tour of Stillwell, and then the tour includes visiting units that are occupied so that the prospective resident can not only see the size of the units and what all they're able to bring, but they can also talk to people who have been exactly where they were before. Because, our residents are, great salespeople for us, that they realize that downsizing it is a big step.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of people say it was one of the best moves they ever made. It just simplified life for them. They weren't having to worry about stuff anymore. They just had the things that meant the most to them.
Well, that's right. You do reach a point where you think life is too short to be having to worry about calling a plumber because you got a stopped up whatever. And, all the things that are involved with, owning a home and having to maintain it.
Yes.
And then perhaps a lady finds herself single because her spouse has passed away who's taking care of all that kind of stuff. There are a lot of cares of this life that can be eliminated by moving into, a retirement community or assisted living or whatever the need is.
Well, one of our residents said she feels like she's living on a cruise ship.
Really?
She has her stateroom. Then she has access to our large print library, our store, our chapel. workout room, beauty shop, guest room, all these things, all are under one roof, and she never gets seasick.
I love
which
it.
I thought was a good way to look at it.
I love it. Well, it's it is it's a wonderful lifestyle for folks who can make that adjustment. But I would assume there are some that just really have a hard time. And how do you help them?
Well, again, the residents all know what it's like to be the new kid on the block.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen people time and again go out of their way to make new people feel at home, and that's very important. Occasionally, over 40 years, I've seen a lot of people come and go. Usually, if people are willing to come in and to give it a try, it's rare that people leave for other than health-related situations. Occasionally you have people that just the transition into group living just doesn't work for them. But that's kind of out of the norm. I mean, it quickly becomes home for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. I would just think the fellowship and the camaraderie that's available there. Loneliness is one of the worst things
Sure,
that can
very definitely.
afflict an older adult.
Well, when you figure too, a lot of older people will reach a point where they're not driving anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They may be living in a neighborhood where their neighbors have moved off and they don't know neighbors. They're kind of isolated. So they move into a community like Stillwell, and they have, again, people with common backgrounds and all the different activities that are available. The other interesting thing with Stillwell, having been around for 57 years this month, is that we have several residents who are relatives of former residents.
Yeah.
We have a lady who moved in a few years ago on the second floor of our west wing, and her mother had lived on that same floor. So it's nice to have that type of continuity.
Oh yeah, generational. Well, and as I say, I mean, I think it's most commendable for the organization there and the whole situation you've got, that folks want to come there and work and stay. I mean, it's just remarkable to me how long folks have worked there.
Well, our goal has always been to provide a high quality, reasonably priced retirement residence, and at the same time provide a good working environment, which adds to the stability where residents aren't seeing a constant change of new faces all the time.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about the cost of it. I mean, this is the kind of thing they're in essence renting. They're not
That's
buying like a condo.
Well, we're a nonprofit organization, and again, going back to the original group that came up with the idea for this facility, they realized even back in the 50s there would be relatively few multimillionaire retired educators. So
Yeah,
the
that's
goal was
true.
provided a high quality program at a cost in line with their retirement income. What we charge for our single studio suites is $1,570 a month, and that includes 3 good meals a day, 7 days a week, housekeeping service once a week, maintenance service, activities, access to a 24-hour emergency alert system, access to all sorts of activities and programs, and all the utilities, including cable TV and internet service, are all included. And very importantly, what we charge is flat monthly rental only. No application fee, no entrance fees, no deposit, no lease. It's a very simple month-to-month rental.
And sadly, there are, I'm sure, some residents who've become infirm and just not able to live an independent lifestyle.
That's the hardest thing that we deal with.
Yeah, I bet it is.
Seeing people who come in very active and over a course of time and through various illnesses or things that happen, just to see people go down, that's real hard. We always encourage people, as they're even considering Stillwell, to be aware, since we don't offer any type of long-term care, to consider other options where they might want to go if they do have to leave Stillwell. So quite a few people have already decided if they do get to a point that they can't stay at Stillwell, they would know where they would go next.
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of plan out how you want that part of your life to look.
Very much so.
Rather than, just whatever happens, and it just means the world to, loved ones. who are, going to be in charge of taking care and sometimes
Sure.
making decisions. And if they already know how they want that part of their life to look, it really helps.
And the majority of our residents still have a good family support structure too. Family that comes in and takes them out and who are still very much involved in their lives.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know from the pancake breakfast, lots of folks come, and I'm sure a lot of them are family that
Quite a few.
want to come and support the whole project.
Well, we normally have around 600 people that come in.
I know, it's huge.
So it's a big event for us.
Okay, so your event is coming up in December 4th.
Right, 10
That's
a.m. until
Saturday.
11:30. And it's a come and go event. There's no real program involved. So people just come in, have some refreshments, listen to the music, get their chances in on the quilt, and we'll announce the winner of the quilt before the event ends. And then also attend the book sale as well.
Yeah, and you might see a former teacher and get a
Very
chance
possible.
get a chance to visit. Well, it's really been fun talking with you about this.
I enjoyed it.
I'd like to end these visits though with a questionnaire. It's similar to the one the late great James Lipton would use on Inside the Actor's Studio, and this is sort of my take on it. What is your favorite word, Joel?
Peace.
Very good. What's your least favorite word?
Violence.
Yeah. What turns you on creatively, emotionally, spiritually?
I would say family. Family's very important to me.
Tell me about your family.
Well, married, have 2 children, 2 grandchildren. Our daughter grew up coming to Stillwell.
I know.
Her first visit was in a stroller, and she is now a middle school English teacher, and I think the influence of the residents was one reason she chose that.
Maybe someday she'll be living her golden years.
You never know.
Still, you never know. Well, what turns you off creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
I would just say a lot of turmoil, just strife, negativity, just things of that area just really disturb me.
Mm-hmm. What sound do you love the most?
The sound of our grandchildren laughing.
Yeah, grands are the best, aren't they? What is your least favorite sound?
Car horns honking.
Right. Traffic noise. What other profession, because you've been doing this work in the world of geriatrics for a long time, what other profession would you like to try?
That's a good question. I've been doing it for so long. I can't imagine doing anything else. Something involving travel, because I love to travel. So I don't know whether it be a travel agent or someone who gives tours.
Yeah.
I think that would be some kind of adventure.
What profession do you know you would not want to do, though?
Anything in politics.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I have heard that before. All right, and finally, Joel, what do you want to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome.
Very good. Joel Wright, who is the executive director at Stilwell Retirement Residence. And I'm sure they can contact you. And maybe if somebody just has some questions about independent retirement living, they could get in touch and take a tour and all that.
Sure. We're always glad to have visitors.
All right. And tell them again the location of Stillwell.
Stillwell is at 5400 Laurel Lake Drive. Some people say we're behind Target, but we were actually before Target, so Target's behind us.
That's right. Target's in front of you, and it used to be the Lake Air Mall.
Right.
I mean, so in all those years, lots of changes. But you're just doing all the great work there at Stillwell, and
Thank
it's
you
been
very
a
much.
delightful talking
Enjoyed
to you.
it.
Central Texas Living is part of the Rogue Media Network family. Be sure to check out their other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate us 5 stars on iTunes and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Living, the podcast.
and thank you for tuning into KNOW Waco. I am your host, Debbie, here to help you get in the know about Waco. So you may be asking yourself, why am I here? I'm here to be your tour guide through Waco. I'm here to tell you all the goings-on in and around Waco. I'm going to give you the 411 on what's happening, what's going on, and what events you should go to. This is your host, Debbie, signing off. Now that you know, go. Just go, Waco.
You are going on a run.
Are you building a new business while managing a family? Are you tired of trying to balance home and work and everything seems to be coming up short? Then there's a podcast made just for you. Baking Your Business from Scratch is where we create the perfect recipe for building a successful business while managing your home and family with love. Come join us and see for yourself.
This has been Road Media Network Podcast.